Vince Vaughn in like a mystery comedy and also a monkey? Let's talk about Bad Monkey. Hey everyone, it's David Stark from Watcher Pass, and I'm here to talk to you about Bad Monkey Season 1, Episode 1. It's just called Episode 1. It's coming to Apple TV Plus on August 14, 2024. Episode 2 is also coming there. I will do a review of that a little bit later. I can't do it both tonight, but I'm going to at least review Episode 1. Episode 2 will be coming out the same day, but the review will be coming out a little bit later. But this is a new Apple TV Plus like comedy mystery series that stars Vince Vaughn. Is this episode worth your time? Is this a series you should check out? Well, my hot take is I think you should watch it. Look, it has a pretty slow start for the series. It lays a lot of groundwork, but it does lay enough groundwork that you can tell that this is going to be like a fun, interesting series to watch. There's enough different threads that they are starting to connect that they kind of like weave together at the start to let you know that there's going to be some surprises along the way. There's going to be some interesting dynamics here. And you got Vince Vaughn as a lead, so what's not to like? So all that being said, I'm going to tell you a little about the episode. A few things I like, a few things I didn't like, and then really quickly go into a recap. So as you can imagine, there'll be spoilers in the recap section. If you don't know what happens to this episode, and you might not, there are some big surprises, especially at the end. I would turn it off now. I would go watch the episode. It's out on Apple TV Plus right now, and then come back and watch my thoughts. But before that, though, I'll keep it vague. I'll keep it spoiler-free, unless you want to get to those spoilers. So, Bad Monkey, Season 1, Episode 1, tells the story of Andrew Yancy, who is played by Vince Vaughn. He's a detective in the Florida Keys that is currently suspended for some actions that he took, but he gets an assignment from his boss that he hopes will get him in his good graces, but that leads down a rabbit hole that involves some shocking body parts and a monkey. So, things I liked about this episode. The first, I like the bright colors and the style. Look, it takes place in the Keys, Miami, and the Bahamas. There's lots of bright colors and beach themes, which are really nice to see despite some of the darker subject matter in this episode and this series as a whole. It's really nice to see like some atrocities happen in a beautiful, beautiful locale. Second thing I loved, I like the characters. There's plenty of strange characters here that we get to meet and interact. I'm not sure how they'll all intersect as the story goes on, but it's fun to at least see them at the start and get to know them. The third thing I love, I like the mystery. There are a couple different storylines here, and it's kind of interesting to figure out how they intertwine together. And I know they will. I know they will eventually, but right now they seem to be separate story threads that will eventually weave together into a larger mystery. And the last thing I love, I like the ending. It is much more of an exciting ending than I expected. There's two big things that happen that are, culminations of the things that we have seen in this episode, but it makes me excited to see what happens next. So, all that being said, things I didn't love as much. The first, this is probably the most egregious one. I think it'll probably rectify itself, but it is just not as funny as I was expecting it to be. I mean, Vince Vaughn is the lead. You'd expect it to be laugh out loud funny, and maybe it's part of the subject matter, but it is Vince Vaughn doing a Vince Vaughn character. He is, he has a lot of side comments. He has a lot of like filling the space with sound. And normally I think that's really funny, but in this episode, the jokes didn't really hit for me. The kind of like references didn't really hit. Some did. There were definitely some moments that I laughed at, but I was expecting to be laughing a lot more than I actually ended up doing in this episode. And that could be because his character is a little bit, more serious-ish in this series. It could be because the subject matter is a little darker. I don't know what it is. I'm hoping that it'll get better over time, but we will see. And the second thing I didn't love as much, it's got kind of a slow start. Like I said, it has a good ending. It builds towards the ending, but the start itself is relatively slow. It lays a lot of groundwork, so I assume it will pick up the pace as the series continues. But overall, this was a slower start than I expected. But still, I enjoyed this episode. I'm excited to see where this series goes. So that is Bad Monkey Season 1, Episode 1. It comes to Apple TV Plus on August 14, 2024. Like I said, check it out. I definitely think you should watch it and probably watch the rest of the series because I think it'll get better. I guess we'll see shortly. But I'm going to really quickly go into a recap of the episode right now. So if you don't know what happens in this episode, I would turn it off now because there will be spoilers. So in Bad Monkey, you have two kind of main storylines. You got the one with Andrew Yancy, who is played by Vince Vaughn. And then you got this thread with this character named Neville, who is in the Bahamas. You don't know how they interact, but they do tell you both stories throughout. Now, I'm just going to focus on Yancey's first, and then I'm going to focus on Neville just for ease of storytelling. So Andrew Yancy is a former Miami homicide detective who is now a detective in Key West. He was, at least until he got suspended recently. He was suspended because he assaulted the husband of his girlfriend. And he is currently suspended because of that, because there are charges pending. He's trying to get those dropped by the husband, but he doesn't seem to be cooperating because Yancey was having an affair with his wife. So that was not a good move on Yancey's part. He seems to kind of like get in trouble for not listening to common sense. This just seems to be the culmination of that. Now, Yancey is very much a Vince Vaughn character. He makes a ton of small talk, has light banter, humorous exchanges, even at the worst moments. But like I said, they're not as funny as I expected them to be. I'm hoping they pick up, but I guess we'll see. Now, he has a house in Key West that he loves. It's his happy place. It's right on the beach. He likes to fish. He likes to, relax. But it's getting kind of overrun by larger mega developments. This seems to be causing like some stress on Yancey's life. Losing his job or at least being suspended also seems to cause some stress on him. But there is definitely a storyline here between him and the developer of the house next door, where he's like fake being nice to him, but then doing horrible things at the house. I'm not really going to go into that stuff. It didn't really play a key role in this episode, but that exists in the backdrop. So early on, Yancey gets a new job by his police chief, the one who suspended him. He's hoping that this will put him in some good graces. He's hoping that if he does this, it'll like put him back on the force. But he has to deliver this arm that was found by a fishing charter in the Key West waters. His boss wants him to take this. The sheriff wants him to take this to Miami, basically to like dump it on them. Say like, oh, this might be yours. This might be something from your cases, so that the arm goes to Miami. And it doesn't have to be like a Key West arm and maybe cause some issues with tourism. It can be a Miami arm where apparently body parts always show up, and so maybe it'll be their problem. Yancey does this. He drives out to Miami, and there he meets Rosa, a fun, kind of like overworked coroner, who basically tells him no. She says, "It's not my problem. I checked the logs. There's no arm that would match any of our like body part logs. So sorry." So Yancey is upset about this, but he takes the arm back and he asks his partner, who's still on the force and like gave him this assignment, what he should do with his arm. And his partner's like, just throw it in a canal where there's a crocodile there. It'll take it out. It'll disappear. No one will be the wiser, and you'll make the chief happy. And so Yancey gets ready to do that. He gets all set up, but he decides not to. He takes it back. I think he doesn't want to destroy this evidence. He thinks that there might be something more here, so he throws it in his freezer. Now, later, we get to meet Yancey's girlfriend, the girlfriend whose husband he assaulted, this girl named Bonnie. She comes over. He tries to get her to drop the charges. She finally seems to come to his side, and then as they're drinking, she goes to the freezer to get some ice, and inside there's an arm. She doesn't take this well, as you'd imagine if you saw a severed arm in someone's freezer, and she runs away. Now, later, someone does call the Key West police asking about an arm. It's this lady named Eve Stripling, and her husband was in a like fishing boat that sunk. And so she thinks that this is her husband's arm. She wants the arm for the funeral. And she does identify the arm when Yancey brings it to her. She identifies it by this like platinum ring that he's wearing. So when Yancey's talking to her, he gets a weird feeling. It feels like she is not as sad as she should be. It feels like she's like crying crocodile tears. And her story is strange too. Like he was fishing. She was in Paris when this happened. It turns out that she is like going to the Bahamas to grieve, not acting like someone who is like really sad that her husband disappeared. So what could the significance of that be? Well, we'll have to find out. So because of this interaction, because Yancey asks a bunch more questions of Eve, he gets reamed by his boss. Not only did he like not dispose of the arm when he was told to, but he then asked a bunch of questions of both like the coroner in Miami and also of Eve Stripling, which makes his boss angry. It makes him, upset about this. It gives him, heartache essentially. And so he basically fires Yancey. Yancey's no longer suspended. He's now fired. But Yancey can't ever let anything go. So he decides to keep investigating this. He goes to the funeral of Eve's husband. And when he's there, he meets her husband's daughter, Eve's stepdaughter. And they get to talking, and she thinks that her stepmother killed her father. Basically, she accuses her of that. She says that she hates her, and also that she was basically estranged from her father because of Eve. She hasn't talked to her father in a year, so she is upset in general. But she also has an interesting clue. The arm, had a platinum ring on its hand. That was something that they used to identify the arm. But for the arm funeral, I guess, it had been replaced with a gold ring. And so we're not sure why Eve stole that ring or Eve took that ring, but it's not a crime. It is Eve's property, but it is a little bit strange that she would take that ring. We don't know why. I guess we'll find out at some point. Yancey also visits the captain of the fishing vessel that found the arm. And when he goes there, he takes some teeth that were found in the arm itself. And he asks the captain, like, what kind of teeth they are. And they're like small shark teeth. I forget exactly what they were, but they're small, shallow water shark teeth. And this arm was found in deep ocean water. Those sharks don't swim out to that deep ocean. And even if they did, they're not big enough to tear off an arm. So this leads to some suspicion about where this arm came from and why it was found in the deep water if it had shark's teeth from a shallow water. Now, later, Yancey and the captain go to get some beers at a local bar, and there they run into Finney, who was one of the workers on that fishing vessel. He's actually the one that pulled up the arm. He quit a little bit later, a few days later, because the captain was telling him what to do, and he didn't want to take any more crap from the captain. And he also apparently ran into a bunch. He also apparently came into a bunch of money. So after he found this arm, he came into a bunch of money. He quit, and now he's kind of showing it off. He buys the captain like some beers and oysters in that restaurant. Yancey goes up to him and is like, starts questioning, like, how did you get all this money? Like, how did you afford it? He's got some bling on. He's buying drinks. He's like, how did you get all this? And the Finney just like ups and leaves. Not good for him because when Finney goes into the parking lot, someone pulls up in this like orange raincoat with a blue hat on and shoots Finney twice. Yancey goes out and sees this. He, tries to intervene a little bit, but he doesn't have his gun. He doesn't have his badge. He gets shot a couple times, but he's fine. He ducks behind a car, and that person drives off. So that is essentially Yancey's storyline. Over to Neville. Neville lives in the Bahamas. He lives in a house that I believe his father built, a fishing shack that his father built. It appears to be owned by his, I think, half sister who lives in Florida, but he lives there in the Bahamas. Now, apparently, his sister has sold this house to a developer who wants to develop a resort. So they're kicking Neville out of his house, and he is none too happy about this. He loves his house, he loves his life, his very simple life, and so he wants the developer to stop, but there's really nothing he can do. He does try a few things to stop this. He, tries to slow the progress of the developer from tearing down all these shacks. He essentially pees in the gas tanks of some of the construction equipment. It doesn't stop it, but hey, you know what? Maybe it'll slow it down a little bit. And we also find out that Neville is the reason why this series is called Bad Monkey. He has a monkey that he won in a game of cards. He was told it was one of the trained monkeys from one of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. Kind of looks like it, but apparently it's not because this one monkey can't do any tricks. He doesn't listen very well, but he is cute, and he and Neville have a sort of like love-hate relationship. Neville often calls him Bad Monkey. One time in the episode, he calls him Good Monkey. So that is probably where this like Bad Monkey TV series name comes from. Now, as he's getting more desperate, one of his friends tells him that he should visit this person named the Dragon Lady. The Dragon Lady is I guess, essentially a voodoo witch who is on the island, and she can apparently make things happen. So his friend tells her to bring money wrapped in brown paper, some booze as an offering, and something that touched the developer's skin. So Neville grabs all of that. When he's grabbing the jacket, he grabs the jacket from the developer's site, who the developer is out, but he breaks into his trailer, grabs the jacket. While he's in there, one of the developer's guard dogs like goes at him. Neville runs, the guard dog is pursuing him, and that is when his monkey Driggs jumps out and like jumps on the back of the dog and like makes him run away, like essentially screeches at him and bites him and makes the dog like run away. So that was the time they called him Good Monkey. Now, Neville goes to the Dragon Queen after he gathers all this stuff, and he asks for an obia or an obi, which is apparently a curse. But essentially, she says like, if I do this, the developer might die. And Neville basically agrees to it. He says, whatever is God's will. So Neville is going down a path that could be a fairly dark path, but he has no other choice. He doesn't want to lose his house, and so this is what he's going to do. Now, after he agrees to this curse, he leaves the Dragon Queen's house. He's walking back to his home, and his monkey starts like messing with him, starts to screech, and he starts saying, "Bad monkey, bad monkey." But then we see a plane approach, and so Neville ducks behind some trees, watches this plane approach. It's the developer, Christopher, the developer that is pushing all these people out to develop this resort. Christopher lands in his plane, gets out, and that is where the narrator who is also the captain of that fishing vessel that pulled up the arm, he is the narrator of the story. He basically tells us that, you were wondering why there were two storylines, but, I told you it would make sense later. And now you see that they're basically one storyline. And so when the developer gets out of that plane and walks onto shore, we see that he is a man with an orange raincoat and a blue hat and like a mustache. Not a magical, pristine mustache like this, a less fun mustache. And when he gets there, we realize that he is the same person that shot Finney in Yancey's storyline. So they are one and the same. The developer who is developing this Bahama resort also shot Finney. And that's it. That's the end of the episode. So what do we think? What did we draw from that? Well, the developer seems to be doing some underhanded things to try to get what's done. Now, how does this all relate? Well, remember, Finney's the one that pulled up that arm. So it seems like maybe the developer paid him to pull up the arm. Maybe the developer wanted to get this arm out of like shallow water where this person was killed and into deep water so it would throw off the search. And so it seems like maybe he paid Finney to hook that arm onto onto some sort of fishing line, pull it up. Now that moves the search somewhere else, and Finney got a big payday. But I guess maybe the developer was then tying up loose ends because after that, Finney got shot. Now, why would the developer want to kill Eve's husband? I'm not sure. Maybe Eve's husband was also holding out. Maybe Eve's husband had something to do with this development. Maybe the developer and Eve are in cahoots for some larger project. We don't know that yet, but it seems like at least Finney was probably paid off and then killed because of it. Also, I assume that these storylines are all tied together because Bonnie, Yancey's girlfriend, also wanted to pull back the charges, basically tried to like beg Yancey to, just essentially take whatever punishment her husband was going to give him and like not have this go to trial because she didn't want that to come out. She thought it would be embarrassing. It seems like there is something that her husband has on her that would look very bad if it came out at trial. And so she was trying very hard to have Yancey not go to trial, not bring this up. He didn't really decide one way or the other. I guess we'll see what happens next episode. But it seems like next episode we'll get a few more of these threads connecting and we'll maybe see where this all goes. And I'm excited to find out. That is Bad Monkey. It comes to Apple TV Plus on August 14, 2024. And if you do check it out, let me know what you think. Let me know what you liked and didn't like. I would love to hear it. And thanks so much for watching. If you like this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.